Hello and welcome to the Alpha Software Demo and Q&A webcast for December 20th, 2023. I'm Dave McCormick, VP of Product Management here at Alpha Software. And for our last session of the year, we're going to just be doing a real short session that will follow a demo, and it will be talking about passing data within your app. So we've had a bunch of questions about where is data and how can you access it in terms of server-side access, client-side access, accessing stuff in control bars and things like that. And I noticed that there was a little bit of confusion among that, so hopefully I will make you less confused today. So we're going to take a look at passing values within apps, and we're going to do it by taking a look at a really simple sample application that I have built called the Alpha Travel Bureau app. The Alpha Travel Bureau app basically works like this. You enter in a member ID, it looks up that member from a database, and it fills in some information. Some of it will go up here on the control bar, but some of it will be hidden from view. It'll be hidden behind the scenes, and it will be used to determine which fields should be hidden or displayed. So we're going to use a couple different techniques. We're going to be working with fields or input controls like we have here. We're going to be working with session variables. These are variables that persist while the user is logged in. And we're going to be talking about data items, and those are things that you'll find in a control bar that you use for displaying information up here. And those are things that can be set dynamically. So let's go ahead and take a look at the demo. I'm going to pop over here to my Windows machine, and here is my app. And let me just give you an example in real life, kind of show you what it looks like. If I click the Look Up User button, you'll see that it now says, John Stone 25. And because John Stone is 25, we now give him a couple other options. He now has the option for a drinks package. He could also do a car rental if he wanted to on this particular trip. Let's say he wanted to do that car rental. I said, yes, we'll click OK to that. And now you'll see that we have a few other types of fields. This is real simple show hide type of stuff, but is really useful when you are building especially large forms. It really makes it easy to for people to fill in information quickly by not being distracted by the information that they don't need to see. So let's take a look and see how this was put together. There's going to be a little bit of JavaScript and a little bit of XBasic today, but not that much, and I hope to talk you through it. So starting here at the top, I've placed everything in a panel layout. And in that panel layout, I have a panel card, and I let that panel card scroll. So as many fields as I have, that you could just keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. And the idea, of course, is to show as few fields as are necessary to make it easy for the user. Now, when I built the panel layout, I had an option when I right-clicked to add a panel header. You see it's already inserted here. And I did that, and when I inserted the panel header, I had an option to insert a control bar, and I did that as well. So if you take a look in working preview, you're going to see the control bar is up here up at the top. And it doesn't do much here. It's just this green background color, and it has some text. Inside that control bar, I'm just going to double-click on it. You'll see that that control bar is made up, if I take a look at the control bar layout, of two things. It's made up of a piece of HTML called HTML1, which happens to say Alpha Travel Bureau. And it's made up of another piece of HTML that's called name and age. And name and age itself is made up of these three placeholders. We're going to get into that in a moment. I just wanted to show you how that kind of worked before we come back. Okay, so when you first kick off the application, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to click the Look Up User button. What that does is it makes an AJAX callback to a database, taking the member ID, it finds the member in the database, and it brings back their first name, their last name, and their age. Only, to be honest, we cheated a little bit, and I'll show you how. I'm going to go into XBasic functions. And so this is, instead of doing the code for doing the SQL lookup, I did hard code them, just so you know. So there's the first name, last name, and age. But here's basically how that script works. When I click that button to do the lookup, it goes it goes and makes a callback to this xBasic function back on my server. And it sets three local variables, first name, last name, and age. These will disappear, not be used as soon as the script has stopped running. But what I'll do with these variables is I will set them into the result of my AJAX callback. My AJAX callback, by the way, is called lookupPerson. So my AJAX callback needs to return some JavaScript set to lookupPerson that will execute when it's returned back to the browser. So to do that, I've inserted basically three things to concatenate that lookupPerson. The first one I've added was dialogObject.setValue.firstName is equal to firstname. And so that means I want you to set the value of the field in my dialog box to whatever value is in this firstname variable here. And then to that string, I say, I also want you to add to the last name control on my, here in my, let me just show it to you. So here's my first name, last name, and age. So those are the ones we're referring to. And I want to set those to last name, and then I want to do the same thing for age. So what that will do is it will return some it'll return some JavaScript that will alter those field values right there on my form. But I've done one more thing too. And besides just setting the field values, I've also set what's called a session variable. I created a session variable right here simply by stating its name and setting a value to it. Context.session.variables.age equals age. So when I come back to the client, two things are going to happen. One is all of these values are going to be set, but we've also set something called a session variable. Now, the nice thing about session variables is that they last from page to page. So if you've got multiple dialog boxes or you've got multiple pages in your dialog box, the fields on one page won't necessarily, or the controls on one page won't necessarily be available on the next page. But when you're using session variables, those session variables are always available, so you can always look at them. So as a result, sometimes, in fact often, these are used to set show-hide expressions, and that's exactly what we've done here. Once we realize that someone is above, say, a certain age, and I think the age had to be 24 in my example, it will know that to turn on certain fields. And let me show you how that was done. The first thing I had to do is I had to tell my my UX control that I'm using session variables and which ones I intend to be using. So I do that here in properties, okay? And in properties, I did a little search for the word session, and that's how you can find it. It's down here in the other controls section. Once I found that, I clicked on the Smart button here, and I typed in simply the name of the variable I wanted to use, session.age. That's all you have to type here. So you can't, like here, I looked down at first the other day and said, oh, look, it looks like you could set a default value. You cannot set a default value. You can only put it in this way. So just keep that in mind. Okay, so now my dialog box is now aware that there are session variables, and I will be able to access them using JavaScript. I will also be able to access them using some built-in features of Alpha. So let me show you how I did that. We're going to go over to Controls, and we're going to take a look at, say, I think it was either car rental or drinks package. Let me see which one. Let me just scroll down. I will find it. Ah, yeah, here it is. Drinks package. So the drinks package is just a field. I was going to set it to be a radio button for yes or no, or maybe there'll be a drop down or something like that. Who knows? But I want to hide this if the person is 20 years of age or under. So to do that, I went down to its show hide expression, and I entered in my session variable. Session.age is greater than 20. Now, interestingly, I showed you on the other screen in the properties box how you can define that session variable for your UX. There's another way to do it too. You can actually hit publish session variables here. It opens up that exact same UX we were just on, and you can see there's my session variable in there. It's also a good place to see what session variables you have already defined so that you'll know what to put here in this box. So I just put in a very simple expression. The expression isn't quite, here are the syntax rules for this. So it isn't, even though it's client-side, it isn't quite normal JavaScript. Like, for example, if I wanted to say something was equal to something, it's not equals equals the way you would do in JavaScript. It's still just an equal sign. So do take a look at this when you're putting together your show hide expression, just to make sure that you are doing it right. All right, so once that is done, that is all going to be hidden. So down here in car rental, I'm doing the same thing, except I'm setting the session age here to 24. So it's exactly kind of what you thought. Now, I've also done show hide expressions not using session variables, but instead using other controls on the form. And that's actually really very common. For example, you might have a drop-down which gives you 5 choices, but the last choice is called Other, Please Specify. And if you choose Other, Please Specify, you want a little field to pop up that will let them type in that field. So that's kind of a common thing to do. So here what we're doing when you do the show hide expression is you could just simply insert the fields that are right in your, to create that show hide expression. You can insert the controls, that you've already defined in your UX. Notice also that my session variable is here too, so I could have selected it there as well, which is pretty cool. All right, so that is that. And so that is how I set the show hides based on the data that came back. But remember, what about that control bar up at the top? How do we set its values? How do we make it show the name of the person? Well, our names for first name, last name, and age, you can see are here in my UX control. But if I go over into working preview, you'll notice that I have them all marked to hidden. So you won't see what would otherwise be here, first name, last name, and age. They're hidden. But I want to display that information up there. Well, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go into my control bar, and I'm going to go into data. And in data, I created something called an item. Add a data item. Let me show you how I did this. Let's do the one for age. I'm going to go ahead and edit that data item. In fact, let me start with a new one. Let me just grab this text out of here. Okay, so let's say I want to add a data item. I'd say, okay, this will be for age. I already have one called age, so we'll call it age 2. And this is what I want you to do. I want you to take a look at a field. Even if it's a hidden field, I want you to take a look at a field, and I want you to automatically update a value if you see that that field has changed. So I do that by checking that box, and now I have this thing called controls to watch down here. I go ahead and click select, and now here are the controls that I can take a look at. The one I'm interested in, of course, is age, so age is the one. So now, whenever the value of age changes, even though it's a hidden field, it's still there. Anytime it changes, I want you to return a particular value. So what value do I want to return? Well, I could return a hard-coded value. I could say return 15, and that's always the age. But what I really want to do is I want to return the value of what is in that hidden age field. So I'm going to do that using dialog.object.getValue. And that is one of the, let me see if we can actually, if it does a helper for you on that. Dialog.object get does not do a helper function for you. Anyway, this is a key thing to use, this get value thing. You will use it all the time. It just basically pulls a field value out of a control so that you can use it. So all I'm doing here is I'm saying, okay, when age changes, I want you to return the value of age to my data item. And I've created 3 data items. One for age, which I just showed you how I set up, one for first name, and one for last name, which I set up pretty much exactly the same, except I had them watch the first name and last name fields, and of course, pull in the data from the first and last name fields. All right, so those are in place. And then the next thing you do when you're building out control bars is you build an item. Because ultimately what you're going to be doing is you're going to be building what's called a control bar layout. And the control bar layout is made of items. So my items are this simple piece of HTML, which says Alpha Travel Bureau. And my other item is this other piece of HTML, which consists basically of 3 placeholders. These 3 placeholders are the data items that, or data elements that I just built before. So I just placed them right there. So with those in place, I could go into my control bar layout. I could then insert into the before, middle, or after section the various control bar items that I had defined, which I just have those two. And then what happens is when I click that button, when I click the lookup button, we'll do it one more time, you will see, and this will make a little bit more sense now, hopefully, you will see that it has now made an AJAX callback. It has set 3 hidden fields that I can't see. And as a result of those 3 hidden fields that I can't see being set, a watch event was fired. That watch event ran 3 little pieces of JavaScript to assemble together the first name, the last name, and the age, which are then placed into the control bar. So I hope this is really what I wanted to cover today. I hope this sort of demystifies a little bit between the relationship between variables, session variables, controls, and data elements. If you do have questions, of course, send them to guides, guides @alphasoftware.com. And hope to see you in the new year. Take care and stay well. Bye-bye.